Good morning. Another day in the world of Oggs. I'm going to show you today how to make an Ogg diary. The Ogg diary is really important for the Oggs because it's where they store all their little bits of information that they've noticed, things that they've seen that they've thought, wonder what that means, or wonder what's going to happen now. And I've made one this morning, got up nice and early, just to show you they are extraordinarily interesting to look at, because the most important thing about an Ogg diary is it uses all the bits and bobs that are just being thrown away all the time. So imagine if you listened to the video yesterday, you would have realised that the Oggs were let loose on the beach. That was the favourite place of the children in the craft room, so they were let loose on the beach. So the bits and bobs that they often find might be a bit of rubbish that's blown in that someone's left when they've had a picnic down by the beach, or it's blown out of the rubbish bins, or even the seagulls might have taken it out of the bins. So they'll be using just scraps of paper, and that's really key to getting into the mindset of an Ogg. Okay, the reason why we're doing the Ogg diary first, before we start thinking about making an Ogg, is because it's an opportunity then to really step inside this idea of the world of Oggs, where you're thinking about how you look at the things that are around you and how you can perhaps be a bit more creative as to how you use things that you might have otherwise thrown away. Right, I've made quite a bit of mess on the table this morning because I was determined not to make anybody feel excluded by this process. And I wanted to at least have something here that every parent and child might have access to. And I am really deeply sorry if for some reason you haven't got a bit of glue, or you haven't, but I'm going to try and give you enough ideas so that you could then adapt it and turn it into something that you have got access to instead. Okay. I'm going to sound a bit, for parents, I'm going to sound a bit like when I was growing up, when we had Blue Peter and they said, this is one I made earlier. Well, this is one I made earlier, and it is made out of lots of bits of scrap paper. The cover that I've used on this occasion was from a really nice gift bag. It was actually for a bottle of wine, it got put in the bag where we keep all the bags that we want to use again, and it's got a bit battered and stuff at the end. I think, all right, okay, I can use that. So I've cut it up to create my cover. So the cover of my book, and there's a bit of glitter on it and things like that. But bags could be really, really pretty. I mean, you don't have to. The reason why I've made it out of my bag is because it's a bit harder, a bit firmer. And I was thinking, most book covers tend to be a bit harder than the pages inside, okay? But don't forget that you've also got the inside, because you obviously can't write on that. You can stick bits on it, but you can't write on it. But on the inside, you've got a nice blank space, so you could start one of your drawings and one of your observations that you noticed. The next page on my diary was a bag that a friend, she deposited a load of old jumpers a couple of weeks ago, saying, Fran, I've been having a root out, and can you turn any of these into Oggs? And this happens a lot, so I've got lots of materials that I wish I could get to you, and if there is a way, then I will get them to you. So this was a bag that she had wrapped them in. It was a sort of kind of paper bag, but it was so interesting. And naturally, because it was paperish and it was stuffed full of old clothes, it got a bit ripped and tattered. So I tore off a sheet of that and cut it out. And that's one of my pages. And whilst maybe you don't want to write on that page because it's so lovely, you can write on the other page because it's also blank. It's a little bit not waxy, but it might, sometimes I notice biros don't always work, but felt tips would be brilliant on that, or pencils, etc. This is my next exciting page. This is a Beano. My kids have grown up with the Beano, thanks to my mum and dad. And so we've got thousands of Beanos, and we've read them over and over again. I don't know what to do with them half the time, other than just keep reading them and turn them into other things. So on this occasion, I've taken a couple of pages of the Beano and I've cut out a rectangle, and because you can't really write on that, and there is also so much colour and it's bright and cheerful, I thought, right, okay, how can I create a writing surface on it? So This bit of paper here, I've stuck on it because you can write on that. But on the back of that paper was notes that I'd made. Like this one, it's my to-do list on this little bit of paper. And I think quite often we write on one side, but we don't write on the other. So I've turned it over, so you've got a nice surface, and I've stuck that on as well. So if you've got a piece of paper where you have made notes in any old scrapbooks and that, then or just notebooks, or even letters that come through the door, quite often there'll be one side that's got the information on. So like a letter like this is going to probably prove me wrong, but often you'll get a letter through the post, and on the back side, no, as I said, it's going to prove me wrong, but quite often there is just white paper on the back, so you could have used that as well. Okay, so I stuck that on, and then because I was thinking, oh, I need to make more interesting, that's not going to get my creative juices flowing enough. So I remembered that I had got a piece of paper piece of plasticky paper hanging off the dog food bag. So here's that bit of paper. So on one side it's very plasticky, but it's kind of layers. So as I ripped it out, I thought, actually that's just paper. So I pulled some of that apart. So if you've got pets, you might find that some of the boxes that you've got there, they've got extra bits of paper on them. And I've just done like a little concertina, making it into like a little fan, and I've stuck that on. Because then I was thinking, oh, I could maybe write on that bit one day, write on that another day, fold it all up, and then I could even do it on the back as well. So again, it just becomes a bit more interesting as a piece of paper. And it's just a piece of scrap paper really, but already I'm thinking, oh, I can't wait to write on that. Okay, my next page, obviously I'm going to leave sometimes because just having a little read, the Oggs might want to have a little read about what was going on in the Beano that day. Similar idea again with a piece of paper that I'd only written on one side. I've stuck that, in fact I think that one had toothpaste and things like that. That was a shopping list. And I've stuck that on the back of a piece of nice foil, which you'll soon come to realise when we get to making Oggs, that the Oggs are not about perfection. They're not about exact lines and straight lines and ordinary shapes. They're about texture and about imperfections and about random lines and mistakes and everything. They're about all things like that. They just don't care for the perfect looking thing. They're about seeing the most interesting little bits in things. So the fact this is all crumpled and noisy, oh god, Oggs would love that. So I've stuck another piece of paper on there, and if I'm a little bit bored, I could have a little punch, just to even probably make some music out of that. On the back, but I'm not advertising, so I won't show you on the back, but basically a packet of crisps. It was a multi-pack of crisps, and so I've just cut that up. You could use a crisp packet like the Oggs would have used if they found one on the beach. In fact, sometimes the Oggs on the beach, they would have used a crisp packet as a little bivvy bag. So they would have given it a quick wash out in the sea, and then they would have got inside at night when they were in their teepee, and they would have kept a little bit warmer and drier because it provides a nice windproof shelter. So never look at a crisp packet again without thinking about what else it could be. This is just a plain bit of card on one side, but on the other side it gives you loads of incredible factual information about cereal. So yeah, it's a cereal box. I've taken the cereal box and cut it up, and going to use one side for writing on and the other side to make sure that I know enough about my vitamins and the intake if I eat that cereal. Okay, another bit of Beano, and this is the most exciting bit of all, the back of my Ogg diary. The Oggs are always doing things like this. They make little special extra bits to it. So that little hole there will mean that they could look like they were reading, but actually whilst they were reading, they could be just spying on everybody around. So don't underestimate what you can do with your Ogg diary. It could take you on such an imaginative journey. Now going back to the front of it, I've taken a piece of newspaper and I've cut out some of the letters. It's a bit like they do when they kidnap someone, but we're not kidnapping anybody. We are just using, I've used the M and the Y, and then one is huge and one is little, so it's already quite nice to look at. It says My Ogg Diary, and I've stuck another little paper at the top because I could put my name on it, or you could put your name, or I could put the name of my Ogg on it. Okay, I've used to tie it all together. Basically, all I did was cut little holes, sort of made holes with my scissors, just to attach them. It doesn't matter if it gets ripped, doesn't matter if there's frayed edges, it doesn't matter if you've got the holes in different places so bits jut out. The more interesting your Ogg diary looks, the better. You're going to have so much fun once you enter this mind of just making it up as you go along and turning all those bits around you into something that can be so useful for exploring the world through your Ogg eyes, of course. I tied it together because I was using a bag, that gift bag I mentioned earlier. Because I was using that, I used the handle to tie mine together. But in the past, I've used bits of string, bits of wool. I'm just trying to think, might be an old lace. Or even just a bit of material, if because when we come on to looking at other materials like the jumpers and things like that, it could be you could just use a bit of material to tie them together, but don't let that hold you back. If you're at all worried about not having anything to tie it together, just make sure you hold it tight until the imagination just sends you, or an Ogg sends you a little idea about how you can hold that together better. Okay, because it might not all come together in one go. God, this is exhausting. Anyway, so I've made a lot of mess, so I'll have to clear all that up. But the reason why we've made the Ogg diary first is because if you do take on this this imaginative trail journey that I'm going to take you on, I just thought it'd be a good starting point for you to think about what your Ogg might look like. What kind of Ogg would you like to make? And in my I'm not very prepared with all this, so there'll be lots of little random videos coming up, and but I'll try to, if you can sort of see them in order, then that will help. But the next video I do, I'm going to introduce you to some of the Oggs that children have made. And normally when people make, when children and adults make Oggs, they take them away with them. They're theirs. That's the Ogg gift. You make it and you take it, and then that's part of your world, and you use it for all the fun and sustainable play that you want to have. But sometimes children make me Oggs, and I get to keep some of them, and it is just the best. So because I showed you lots of my Oggs yesterday, all the 14, I didn't show you them all, but each of those Oggs were made out of my imagination, and my imagination has been guided by years and years and years of what I've seen and what I've done, and how I see the world. But the Oggs of the children are fresher. They're made from the imagination that's still evolving and growing, and oh my goodness, they are just so exciting. And sometimes I have made the most awful mistake, and my mature, old, aged imagination says, oh, would you like me to trim that bit for you, because that's a bit sort of hanging off you. And I have been told in no uncertain terms by children, no, that's his antennae, or that's his special hand, that without that hand he'll never be able to change the world in the way that my Ogg is going to change the world. Or that piece of hair there, that piece of wool that you're about to cut off because it looks scruffy, was the very piece of wool that saved that plant over there from like I say, I don't know what's going on in a child's head, so and you don't know what's going on in my head, and that's the wonder of it, and we're going to share all that lovely imagination. So what I'm trying to point out to you is that the Oggs that the children have made and the ones that you'll make, they might not look like my Oggs, and I hope they don't, because that's not what the Ogg world's about. It's not about making things that all look the same. It's about really showing how wonderful you can create something that's so different and unique and special and so from you, and says something a little bit about you, and also will reflect some of the things you've got access to, because you're not necessarily all going to have access to the things that I've got, which saddens me quite a bit, and I don't know how to make that different at the minute. But I'm hoping that even if you've only got access to the smallest amount of stuff, that you'll start to have a bit of fun with it. Okay, so the first thing I'd like you to do in your Ogg diary, whilst I go and sort out all the lovely Oggs that I can find that children have made to show you in the next video, I want you to think about the shapes that your Ogg might take. So it might be that you think, no, I like drawing cats, or I'm going to draw that superhero that I use on one of my games or something. Or it could be, oh, I would love to have had a horse, or I've got a dog and he's my best friend, or oh, I want to be with Grandad but I can't see him at the minute because we're stuck in this house, or Nan or whatever, or Mum's got to go to work, and I want to make a mum to stay at home with me. So just draw a picture, and the picture is not about I'm not going to be looking at that picture and saying, or nobody's going to look at that picture and say, oh, that doesn't look like Mum, or that doesn't look like a dog. It is your decision about how your picture looks, and I hope it looks really, really random and just with bits that and other people might not know about, but they are the most important bits that you need to put on your Ogg. So I shall leave you there. I can show you some pictures later because, like I say, I haven't been organised enough to get those out already, of other Oggs that people have drawn, and they take all sorts of random shapes, and some of them are just 2 circles with 2 dots. That's how they start, but that's not how they finish. When they've started to make their Ogg, then they've got extra things going on that they've thought, oh, how did I forget to draw that? So just start the process, and the process has no barriers, there's no need to get hung up on anything with it. It's just meant to be a lot of fun. Oh, and I'm so excited that if any of you are joining me in this, and parents, I genuinely just want to keep the children safe and occupied. So if you are using scissors and glues and that, I know this will be in the forefront of your mind as well. I'm not trying to encourage your children to do anything dangerous. So please feedback if there's something I'm doing wrong that you need me to make aware, so that other people don't fall into that mistake as well. Anyway, really nice to see you, and I shall speak again soon. Bye bye.